Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction, and thank you so much for having me here as part of this lecture series. One quick announcement before I do get started, and it's about my name. My whole life I've been known as Ethan Zohn. You know, growing up playing soccer, they called me the Zohner sometimes, but everything is different now. Ever since I got home from that reality show Survivor, things have changed. So I've had to officially change my name. So my first name is still Ethan, but my last name is the cancer guy from Survivor. So if anyone has any questions, it's all in work. So just for today, I've added a new course to USC, and it's called Ethan from Survivor, Life Class 101. And there's only 2 questions in my course, and the final exam is take home. So, question number 1, what makes you the person you are today? And question number 2, is that person someone who's preoccupied with your own life, where you want to use your power and knowledge of who you are to go out there and make a difference in the lives of others out there? Now, I know what you're probably thinking right now, as you sit in your chair staring up here and you're like, who is this kid? You know, what gives him the right to stand up here and talk to us and equate his experiences with ours? When I was first diagnosed with cancer, my mom, my wonderful mom, you talk about your mom, right? I talk about my mom a lot. My mom gave me this card. So I took the card, of course I shook it to see if there's a check inside. That's obviously the first thing you do. Then I actually read what was on the cover. And it said, a bird does not sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. Now what's that mean? You know, it means I may not have all the answers. I'm not a professor, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I've been through some serious things, and I figured a few things out on my own. So hopefully I'm here today to share my story. This is my song, this is my experience, this is my passion. And hopefully it can help you guys on your little journey through university and through life as well. So let's start with question number 1. What is it that makes you who you are today? It can be an individual that helped shape your life or inspired you. It can be a family crisis that forced you to mature, the death of a parent, a move to a new town, or it can even mean being on top of the world and then getting told you had cancer. Twice, which is what happened to me. No, but the one real plus is that it made me refocus. It helped me recommit to the things that really matter, and it made me realize this one absolute truth, that with all our differences, old or young, tall or short, man or woman, we all share one thing in common. We're all survivors on this earth for a very short time. It's not about how or when we leave this world. It's what we do to make the most of each day, each crisis, while we're here. It didn't take me long to leave the reality show and get back to reality. And for winning that $1 million made me take a good, hard look at who I was and who I wanted to become. And although a car and TV and all that other stuff may make me temporarily happy, I want to be the kind of person who used his money and his celebrity to make a difference in the lives of others. So what Survivor is really about is this. I was placed in a sociological experiment that happened to air on national TV in front of millions of viewers. And for some crazy, messed up reason, people chose to tune in each week for 13 weeks. Now, what I wasn't prepared for on Survivor was the loneliness and isolation of being stuck in the middle of Africa with no friends, no family, no ATM, no convenience stores, no cars, no nothing. All I had with me were the clothes on my back and my one luxury item of choice, which for me was this, a little mini soccer ball, a hacky sack. And the interesting thing is that once all my distractions were taken away from me, I was left with nothing more than the bare essentials of who I am. And once I became aware that this knowledge of self is all that one needed to survive and prosper, I ended up giving my hacky sack away to some little kid. This small gesture of giving away made a difference to me and to another. A toy, to me, was a luxury to this little kid. Like, it wasn't until I saw, the smiles and the glee and the happiness in this little boy's eyes did I truly understand. And I think this is how we can all begin to change the world. And by giving and helping and caring for another individual, I experienced far more than what the worth of this little ball was. But it's our values and our ethical underpinnings that really dictate how we treat one another. And I use the word "our" because whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, follower of the Biggest Loser diet, whatever it may constructs that can really help you master any challenge. Number one, I was selfless in a selfish game. It's the better way. It's not always easy, but it's always right. You know, a true leader must be able to give oneself for the good of the team. And as a patient, you know, it's really hard to articulate what it feels like to be seriously ill. You know, it pays to have a positive outlook, but when your entire team of doctors try multiple ways of healing you that don't work, you panic. You crave survival. You know, I felt lonely and I felt isolated, you know, when this all was happening. I felt like I was in the middle of Africa playing survival again, but this time, you know, it was for my life. And there are times I didn't want to fight anymore. You know, I'd had enough and I was ready to just throw in the towel. But I had another gut check. You know, I dug deep. I dug really, really deep. And those same things came into focus. You know, character, values, you know, the very essence of the human spirit. And that's really what helped me get through this most difficult part of my cancer journey. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, like, awesome, dude. Like, if I can only be dropped off in the desert for 39 days and get cancer, like, I'll find myself. Like, I'll find these tools. But that's just it. Like, the things I learned growing up, they were inside me. They were burned into my identity. You know, somewhere along the way, I lost sight of those things, you know, but they came back just when I needed them, just like they always have. So if your experience at school is anything similar to my experience at school, then you too have these tools. Even if you don't realize it now, when faced with adversity, you can rely on all the things you learned right here, and you can rely on all those things learned in that giant laboratory outside the classroom as well. What I learned is that you don't have to be Bill Gates, you don't have to be Oprah Winfrey, you don't have to be David Beckham and have all these fancy titles and tons of money to be able to enable you to go out there and make a difference in this world. There are plenty of things that each and every one of us can start doing right now to make a valuable contribution. And this gets back to that question from earlier this morning. What do you do when you win $1 million? Well, I decided to use that money to start a charity called Grassroot Soccer. And like Ray said, use the power of soccer in the fight against HIV and AIDS. And I just want to give you a little background on how all that got started, because I think it'll give you a better perspective on why I've made the choices I have and why I'm standing before you this afternoon. I won a reward challenge on the show Survivor, where I won these 2 goats I wasn't too happy about. Those are the goats that you saw with Karen and Bill in the video. So I got to take these goats to this little village of Wamba. And before I left this village of Wamba, I was hanging out in the parking lot of Wamba Hospital. And all these little Kenyan children came out, you know, they were touching my white skin, and they were playing with my Jufro, you know. Like, they had never seen anyone like me before. And that's when I busted out this again, this happy sack. And so we're all playing around, they're having a wonderful time, I'm having a wonderful time, we're like smiling, we're speaking the same language, yet we're not speaking the same language, similar to what Ray was saying, we're communicating in a way that only you can through this beautiful game, this little ball. And so before I left, I asked one of the nurses, like, why are these kids just hanging out in the parking lot of Wamba Hospital? And she says, well, these are all the kids that are HIV positive. I said, wow. Here we go again. Here I am in the middle of this game, this cutthroat game of Survivor, and I had a real life experience. And it was in that moment I decided that something has to be done. And I got together with some soccer buddies of mine, Dr. Tommy Clark, Friedrich, and Tembe and Lobo. We all played for the same team in Africa, and we created Grassroot Soccer. And basically, our concept was we wanted to use the world's most popular sport to be able to deliver a health intervention to some at-risk African youth. Now, I don't know how familiar you guys are with soccer and the power of soccer, but like, if you wrap all the major league and minor league sports in America into one, that's how popular soccer is in Africa. You know, it's like hockey in Montreal, it's like, you know, football in Baton Rouge, it's like competitive plastic surgery here in LA. You know, like, this is it, you know? So like, every little kid wants to grow up to be a professional soccer player. So you can imagine the impact when we take these players, these coaches, or the peer leaders, and we send them into the classroom. I mean, the kids' eyes pop open, their jaws drop, and we end up changing their behavior so they can go out there and make the right choices in life. And what we have found in our research over the past lot of these kids come from broken homes, they've lost one of both parents to AIDS, they're living with their aunts or uncles, maybe they could be a little bit homeless at times, but the people they see on a daily basis are their coaches. And so, at first, Grassroot Soccer's whole mission was we wanted to save the kids, prevent new infections. But after a while, we realized that the people who are delivering these interventions, these coaches, these peer leaders, they're the ones that were the most important people for us as an organization to invest in. We are a program that is using young people, like 18 to 25, to educate young people, 11 to 14. So this peer leader has a very powerful impact. And the place, I did this research last night, but the median age of South Africa right now is 24. The median age of Nigeria is 16. I mean, half the people in Nigeria are under the age of 16 and half are above. So the number of youth that are growing up with kind of fewer options that they may have before is exponential. This is the first generation where the kids are smarter, more educated than their parents. And so for us, it's very important to invest in the youth. And this is a really exciting time in kind of the HIV/AIDS world, I guess you could say, because in the first time in the past 20 years of the disease, this is the first time we're seeing a decrease in new infections. And the reason we're seeing that decrease is because of education and because of biomedical advances like treatment and some other stuff that we can talk about at a different time. So for us, it's really important to keep investing in the HIV/AIDS pandemic. It's important for us to invest in the coaches because these are the next generation of change makers. So a big part of our program now is really monitoring and evaluating our program. Like I know it's Institute for Global Health here, so I'm sure you guys are aware of the monitoring and evaluation component. And I think that's one of the real reasons we've been so successful early on, because we invested pretty much every dollar that we made back into the organization because we had to prove that our curriculum is working. We're now conducting the first and only sports for development random controlled trial in South Africa. I just got back from South Africa on Friday, where I was doing a bunch of work with Grassroot Soccer. I had been there since 2010, and I learned a lot about my organization that was going on that I didn't know was happening. But one cool story that I just want to share with everyone is, so we have a program that's specifically geared towards young girls. It's called Skills Street. Young girls in Africa are 3 times more likely to contract HIV. There's a big problem with domestic violence and gender norms. So we started a program that's specifically targeting young girls. And so they use soccer, and we help them. We have soccer-themed games that helps them with their confidence, how to negotiate relationships, how to say no. And from that program, these girls loved playing soccer so much that they wanted to start their own soccer team. And girls aren't necessarily allowed to play soccer in some of these areas. We work in a township called Kailicha, which is a township or slum that's outside of Cape Town, South Africa. And so, guys would make fun of them, they kick them off the fields, and it's just not socially acceptable for them to play. So these girls all right, we want to start our own soccer team. But how are we going to do it? And so what they did is they start making these. This is what we call rag balls. So they take newspaper, they crush the newspaper up in little, firm little balls, keep doing it until it got bigger. They put that in a plastic bag. Then they use old fruit bags from oranges or lemons, and then they put that in there. And then they take old trash t-shirts, and they cut the t-shirts up, and then they weave that in and out. So what's interesting is, so they sell these balls, and half the money goes to the girl that makes the ball. A quarter of the money goes to the team fees, and a quarter of the money goes to materials. But what's interesting about, and that money is used for league fees, for uniforms, for transport. But in addition to that, we have now used this kind of offshoot of our program to now start teaching these young girls about financial literacy, opening a bank account, interview skills, how to write a resume, how to plan for the future. So it's kind of a really neat offshoot of Grassroot Soccer. And these are the things that I never even anticipated would have started, back in the day when we're like, all right, let's use soccer to teach kids about HIV and AIDS. So The program's developed in a way that is pretty impressive, and obviously I'm a little biased, but I love it. But what I want you guys to take from this model is that these soccer players, these peer leaders, these coaches, they grant you instant access into a community. They have the ability to break down cultural stereotypes, and they bring people together. And that's you guys. You guys are the future leaders of this world. You've been given the gift, the duty, the joy, the ability to go out there and initiate change in your community, both locally and globally. And now that I've survived, I decided to live the rest of my life by making sure to never let a crisis go to waste, because it's an opportunity to do some really important things. What I've realized is how amazing and generous our generation can be. Put yourself in the shoes of a cancer person like myself. How cool is it that there are complete strangers out there that are running marathons, walking, raising money to help fund a drug, do cancer research to help save my life? To me, that's inspiring. And because there are two things in life that we are certain about. We will all have to die,